अविद्यानां मन्तस्तिमिरामिहिरद्वीपनगरी जननं चैतन्यस्तवकं करन्दश्रुतिचरी दरिद्राणां चिन्तामणि गुणनिका जन्मजलधौ निमग्नानां दंष्ट्रामुनिरिपुवराहस्य भवति.
Namaskaram to all. Welcome to Clyde Samvada, brought to you by the Hindu Temple of Scotland. If you are somebody who occasionally looks at Google Trends, and if you have been seeing this trend over the last 6 months, one trend that has really picked and really spiked is the keyword called Bhajan Clubbing. And I was just looking at this yesterday to look at what the past 5 years trend on Google Trends on this particular term is. And since November 2025, there's been like an absolute spike on it. Like, it's not linear, it's exponential, right? So it's tells you a very clear virality component to that particular search term. So we thought today it is an occasion for us to maybe reflect on the concept, why we think it is really picking up the way it has picked up, and few reflections around that. So we have Dr. Srihari joining with us again to reflect on this trend. Dr. Srihari, how have you been?
I've been very good, thank you, Sreevas. It's very interesting. You used the word November 2025 as a big spike. I did not know it, but something very coincidental happened right here on the floor of Hindu Temple of Scotland.
Okay.
I did not know anything about it, but for the first time I did a very amateur attempt at Bhajan Jamming in November 2025 at the Hindu Temple of Scotland. So it's fantastic that you've thrown in that very interesting factoid, and I'm looking forward to see what themes that we come up with. As I say, I'm not at all expert in Bhajan Jamming. If you think of it as a grounded theory approach, I'm actually evolving, learning from it, and then trying to get more sense out of it, both as someone who's curious and also as someone who's trying to get into it, and I'm trying to bring it into the temple. And you and I, we're both priests in the temple, and see what our views are as a priest on the entire concept of the Bhajan Jamming.
Super, Srihari. So the way I have understood this, if you want to call it as a music genre, would be it is in some way trying to combine what has historically been bhajans, which were sung in temples, in larger gatherings, but the integration of that with more of popular music, either rock, EDM, that variant of it, or in some cases there are some bhajan groups which just combine this with tunes from popular film songs. Some way of combining what was a traditional devotional Bhakti genre, integrating that with modern elements in different ways. So that's how I've seen it. Like, what's your thoughts been like?
Upasana,
sitting near the
worship.
gods.
So Upasana, Bhakti, there's many forms of expressing Bhakti. We all do various acts to say our prayer, and I am seeing the Bhajan Jamming as one of the ways of expressing our devotion, and expressing and also looking at the videos of the reels that come up on the social media and the videos, and then reading about it and seeing it. It's one is expression, and the second thing that I've very clearly noticed in people who are participating in it is the actual sense of feeling and internalizing the whole experience. So these are the two key things that I've noticed. And I think that pretty much very nicely summarizes what we do when we perform Upasana. We are trying to become one, and we're trying to feel it. And that's my view on it at the minute.
Yeah, it's interesting that you kind of say that, because like the way I have thought about it as to why this might be a trend that's really picking up, I think there are three main reasons. Like, and one first reason would definitely align with what you just said now, which is it's about the integration between the sacred and the social in some way, right? Because what was happening otherwise in the pure clubbing segment was socialization in some form, and what was happening in the pure temple was sacred. This is in some way merging the both. And why I think this is really working with the Gen Z newer generation is because this is a way for them to reconnect with their original roots, being able to showcase it as authentic, and it is being done in a way which is Instagrammable.
Yes.
So while it's on the first hand sacred social integration, it's also aligning with some of their own general trend of how they engage with the popular world, which is Instagrammable world. And then the third thing that I think also is really working is it is in some way democratizing the whole thing, because otherwise in a pure temple setting, this is kind of coming from the reflection as a priest as well, right? There is a certain degree of power distance that I would say is there. I mean, for whatever we might try to do to reduce it, there is it, right? So we implicitly know that. And this is in some way overcoming that thing and democratizing this thing, and that is like, okay, my 2-year-old daughter enjoys Nanda Govindam bhajans, 80-year-old people like Gopi Uncle, Raji Aunty, they also enjoy Nanda Govindam bhajans, and both of them have not really been told that there's something like this. They have all very organically found this and are engaging with it, and that for me is an extremely good anecdote to think about the democratization of the whole thing. So I think these three convergences are really pushing this trend, is what my thoughts mean.
Srivas, you used two awesome S words, sacred and socializing. This is a very nice one to latch on to the thoughts I have on it. And the second is the democratization. That's exactly my view as well. The word I was having in my mind is removing the hierarchy. Is the word that I was looking at, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So as you and I are priests, for us a priest is an English word, and our role mainly when we come to the temple is we are purohitas. We are here to think of well for the others who come into the temple, and traditionally what you and I do is we say a mantra, and we are being the carrier of that mantra from the devotee to the deity. And what you've said as taking that democratization is we don't need to be in between, and that is essentially what the Bhajan Jamming culture is doing, saying that everyone can feel the presence of God and the goddesses and get the entire spiritual experience, and we can easily be part of it. And I think that is a very, very nice way to put it, saying that it's become quite a democratic thing. Where is this culture of Bhajan Jamming coming from? That's something that you initiated. I was going back to what my own preferences are and my own practices are. When I'm in the temple, I'm conducting puja on behalf of the devotees, then I use quite a lot of mantras, and they come from the Vedas. And not necessarily we all understand the Vedas and the content of the Vedas, but we all know the mantras, and then we use them as a form of sound to carry to the gods and the goddesses. We use that. The going back, I mean, not everyone in the society understands Vedas, so there was always an attempt to simplify and carry the core meaning of the Vedas. So let's go back in time. One of the persons who's written lots of verses to make Vedas more understandable is Adi Sankara.
Of course.
Okay. If I'm performing worship for myself, my own upasana, my favorite medium of upasana is reciting ashtakas. Ashtakas is my way of offering prayers. Most of the ashtakas are all composed by Adi Sankara, and the composition of these ashtakas is, if you think, they're all easily repeatable shlokas.
Yeah.
And the shloka from 8 words has come down to 4 words, and then we bring down to 2 words. So it's becoming more and more simple for communal worship, that everyone can sit together and perform, offer prayers. So I think it is that building up from the challenges that one might have from the Vedas to making it more accessible to each and every one of them. I think that is the journey that we are undertaking right from the start. Let's take the example, we talked about Adi Sankaracharya. Adi Sankaracharya, as we know, has traveled
Across
along the country, across India, and at various places he came up with fantastic stotras. And if we combine all these, Adi Sankaracharya was traveling in Kashi, and he would have gone and attended quite a lot of Vedic patashalas, and then looked at the rituals and engaged with scholars and with commoners, everyone alike. And what would have happened is he was probably getting insight into what was happening, and he was walking along somewhere, and he finds this scholar, an elderly scholar, who is trying to master the grammar in order to learn the Veda. And what did he come up with?
Bhajagovind.
He came up with the first stanza of Bhajagovindam, I think, is revolutionary. The first stanza of Bhajagovindam said, Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudha Mate. So it was an instruction. He was saying to an elderly scholar, saying, what is the point in you learning all these grammars to learn Vedas? The key thing here is to Bhaja Govindam. So Nama Smaranam. That is essentially what he is asking us to do. And I think that is probably, could we think that he was the original Bhajan Jamming proponent?
Pioneer. Yeah.
What do you think on that as an idea?
It might well be that. I mean, like, if you kind of really trace it back, it has to go back to the Bhakti movement.
Yes.
And if you go back to the Bhakti movement, which is really where the Namajabam thing came up, to a large extent, we can think of Shankaracharya as one of the people who was trying to revive the Bhakti cult. And if we correlate those two, we probably are at that.
To me, it makes sense. I do not know if he would have
thought about it
that way. But whatever seed that he planted by asking us to focus on Namasmaranam Bhaja Govindam and picking that up as a vision and see the Zen Z execute it, I think we've traveled quite far along. And I think we're in a very nice position just now with the entire concept of the Bhaja Govindam coming up.
Yeah, totally with you. I think that also kind of the sound part really resonates, right? Because if you go back to the Vedas, Samaveda is a musical form of the Veda rendition. And recently I had the good opportunity to engage with Morajabam in the Padmanabha Swami temple. And in that we had all the multiple Vedas being chanted around the main sanctum sanctorum. And we have, in fact, those who do not know about Morajabam, there's an episode that we have done a couple of weeks ago on Morajabam itself, so do catch that episode. So for me, when I was sitting in that setting, while I was chanting Yajurvedam, I could see some Vedam also being chanted behind, right? So that, the different tones that kind of brings to that mold is really what the whole essence of sound itself is, and how sound interacts with neuro vibrations and the intersection of all of that. So this has connotations from a very personal human body neuroscience element as well.
Sound travels in waves, and it is the waves that carry our mantra and our puja to the gods and the goddesses.
Absolutely.
So, true, very true. From a pre-side of things, how do you see the bhajan jamming culture, and how do you see that influencing the way you conduct pujas in the temple, the way I conduct? I'll tell you what my views and observations are, but how do you see that?
My take on it would be, this is a way of how tradition and modernity are blending. I mean, we have in fact a broader research piece that we have currently ongoing where we are looking at this intersection. Though that is from more of an innovation entrepreneurship standpoint, there are a lot of very interesting insights that we have picked up through those conversations. If we look at the previous episodes where we have talked about AI emerging tech. We also had this episode on Hindu rap. All of this I feel are modern interpretations / modern pathways that are linking through the tradition. And for me that is important in the way I think about this from a priest hat, because for me the way by which I think the Gen Z and the younger generation beyond are going to engage or begin to engage with faith would be through these pathways. And that would be sort of like step one. It would be games / technology in some way / Bhajan Jamming type trends would be their step one. What used to previously be tales or stories that grandmothers would say, we don't have that in the nuclear family world, yes. But this is going to be step one. What used to be step one there has transformed, I believe, into something like this as being step one. That probably engages them with faith and the sacred and the divine. And then it would be other deeper engagements, be it learning music in a deeper way / regular engagement at temples / reading about the Puranas or whatever. So I believe this has become step one of what used to be grandmother stories.
Absolutely. I'll bring in, I totally agree with every single thing that you say, and I want to add a couple of things to it. I'm coming from the equally the priest side of things. The first thing that we have is, one of the things that we have as a priest is the knowledge. And people in knowledge, in a sense, creates an hierarchy. The second is we have knowledge of the rituals. So when we talk about the rituals, we're talking about vidhi. Now, I'm a surgeon by profession, so I'm very heavily into ritual because everything I do is very ritualistic. Bhajan jamming, I think, is ritual. Let's talk about the ritual. Ritual helps us focus on the task. And when we focus on the task, the mind might go somewhere away, but you develop the muscle memory to focus on the task that is to hand on doing the offerings or things. The muscle memory brings it in, so it keeps the focus on the action. But the nada, the swara, the voice, that helps us to create the sound that we talked about. And the silences that we bring in between, that helps us to reconnect and regather, regroup, and come back into it. I think what Bhajan jamming is doing is it's creating a resonance in the room, and that resonance is, I think, keeping the bhava and spreading the spiritual vibrations, I think is what is happening.
And social, the sacred social, right?
The social, exactly. And I think that as overall, an overall experience is actually giving people a feel good factor. And whatever we do, we're offering pujas ritualistically or singing, listening to this, it's all to feel good. And I think that is where it's coming. And I've been very, very amateurly trying Bhajan jamming at the temple, and you know I can't sing, but I've been trying to do a bit of ritualistic, attempt, a very, very crude, vague attempt at Bhajan jamming. And the feedback I've got from the people here, I tried it on Ayappa Mandala Samapti Puja, I did it on the New Year Day celebration, and I also did it on the 4th of Jan. I can't remember what puja I did that day, but 4th of Jan. Every single time the feedback that I received from the devotees was they absolutely loved it. They might actually love it more if a person who properly knows how to sing does it.
We have people with Sampradaya Bhajan who have done that also. I mean, so that those days have also become very popular.
In my opinion, some things are going to change, some things are needing to change for me as a priest. And one of the things that I'm intending to change is every time I offer a worship, as a communal worship within the confines of the temple, communal worship, I'm very keen to try and introduce, at least for a few minutes, the whole concept of the Bhajan jamming. And maybe I get better at it. But I think that I'm very keen on trying to do that.
I think that's a really good note for us to close the episode on, saying that it's like an action point for us to take forward. And thanks so much, Dr. Srihari, for joining us once again on Clyde Samvada. Namaskara.
Namaskara.